For those of you that are just joining, we're going to give everyone just a few more, about another minute or so to join the webinar. We see people are still coming into the room, so give us just another minute or so and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to this COSN webinar on the CETL and giving you an overview of the CETL program and all the information you need to know about the CETL credential and the credentialing program. So today I have some special guests with me to present. You will have Robin Gunter. She is a CETL and Executive Director of Institutional Technology in the Richardson Independent School District from Texas. I have Chantel Manahan, who is also a CETL and Director of Technology from Angola. I hope I said that right, Indiana. And I am Chelsea Earhart. I am the COSN Director of Certification. So I am the one who handles the certification program, the CETL certification, and live in that world all day, every day. So we're happy to be here, and I'm going to pass it over now to Robin, who's going to start the presentation. And I should mention, we are recording this session. Everyone who is attending this webinar or signed up for this webinar will receive a link to the recording once we have concluded the webinar. And we will also be accepting any questions you have in the chat. And at the end of our presentation, we will get to as many of those questions as we can in the time that we have allotted today. So Robin, take it away.
Yes. Thank you, Chelsea. So like with any good professional learning opportunity, we want to start with our objectives and our outcomes. So we want you to know what you're going to walk away with, and that's hopefully an understanding of what the CETL looks like and means for you. So we will be covering the background of the CETL, as well as eligibility criteria, exam overview, and recertification. So next slide. So we're going to start with the background. What is the CETL? The CETL, if you do not know yet, does in fact stand for Certified Education Technology Leader. And this is available to any technology leader who qualifies, applies, sits for, and passes the CETL examination. I think it's important to know we all have worked in an industry or a profession that offers certifications of some kind, and that can look different across different industries. But this is the only accredited practice-based certification for ed tech leaders. And that is something to always keep in mind when you're looking at your own professional learning, your own professional growth, and what that means for your profession. And also, our exam and our process really focuses on that framework of essential skills, which is developed and published by COSN. And so the whole process takes into account those skills and those abilities that you have, that you acquire and that you grow through the process and then get the certification for. And also, we want to get the word out that this is not just for CTOs. This is for any technology leader, and that can look different in whatever district that you're in. It could be a campus level, could be department level, could be at the district level, but it is for those people who are in that leadership position, a credential for them. So the value of the certification, and you're going to notice that on this slide, a lot of the bullet points talk about what the value is for you personally, which is important because you're the one doing the heavy lifting and earning the certification. But that first bullet is also important in that it is a benefit to your organization because you are now exhibiting and showing that you have the skills to have those conversations, those discussions, work on those initiatives that are at a broader level at your district level. Now, the rest of them are also talking about what that brings for you. So it does enhance your reputation, your credibility. It also provides you the opportunity for possible career advancements. And that third bullet, which is probably one of my favorites, is that commitment to professional learning. I think it's important. I come from the instructional side, and so that has always been an important part of my position, that I want to stay on I want to know what the trends are and what is important in my profession. And so by earning the CETL and continuing with the recertification process, you're making that commitment to yourself and to your institution to continue learning. Those last two bullets also, you have another level of understanding when it comes to advocacy efforts, and COSIN, as well as some of your state chapters, may offer those opportunities, and having that CETL speaks to those as well. And finally, networking opportunities. We always are looking for ways to connect with one another and to learn from one another. And so these networking opportunities, we work hard to make those available through online communities, through webinars like this. There is a great opportunity that we're going to talk about in a little bit at the actual conference, where we can meet face-to-face and learn and grow our skills together as well. I do want to make a comment about this, that COSIN is always making a concerted effort, because yes, as ed tech leaders, it's important that we know about this certification, but it's also important that district leaders also know the importance of this accredited certification. And so COSIN does a great job of trying to get the word out to superintendents, to cabinets, to board of trustees, so that they also see the value in that accreditation moving forward. I am going to pass it back to Chelsea, because we keep using that word accredited certification, and that word is really important. And so she's going to explain what that really means.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, I know there's a lot of words on the screen, and I'm not going to go through and read to you everything here. You can go back and read it on your own. But basically, the crux of this slide is to show you that why does it matter? What does it matter that COSIN has accredited their certification program, accredited the CETL? And basically, it's just to show that we have achieved the highest standard that there possibly can be for a certification program. And we are held to very high standards, and we have to meet certain sets of criteria with the CETL program to attain and keep this accreditation. And as Robin mentioned, we are the only practice-based certification in the ed tech space. So it is a pretty big deal. The next slide shows you just some of the areas where we have to provide evidence of and adhere to certain standards in all of these different areas to an independent body that affirms that we have met these very high standards when we're creating and when we have maintained the certification program. So pretty much every policy procedure that we have in place is all to ensure that we are using best practices. We're meeting those accreditation standards, and we're not just making up things as we go along. There really is a rhyme and a reason for every single thing that we do with the CETL program, and that we do meet those highest standards possible. So now I'm going to toss it back to Robin so she can go through some of the nuts and bolts of the CGC.
Yes. So one of the things that Chelsea just talked about is some of the things we have to have in place. And one of those is a governance committee. And this also plays into the background of the CETL. So we do have a certification governance committee. We call it the CGC. And this is the body that is responsible for maintaining that high level of expectation around it. And again, there's a lot on this slide. In just a second, I'm going to talk about our subcommittees, which really talks about the work that the CGC does. We do have 15 CETLs that are in good standing from across the country who are on this board. So next slide. So this next slide, like I said, talks about the subcommittees, which I think speaks to the work that this CGC does, as well as when Chantel starts talking about the actual CETL process, you're going to see how all these subcommittees play into that. The first one I want to talk about is the CETL ambassadors. This goes into that networking value that you receive by receiving the CETL. This is a group that really looks at planning those events where we can network. They are solely responsible for the CETL summit that occurs at the conference every year. We have the exam committee. So this is the committee that looks at the performance, looks at the question types, ensures that they're aligned to that essential framework of essential skills, so that we know that we are staying on trend with what is happening out there. We don't want a question that doesn't reflect what our practitioners are doing right now. Appeals committee speaks for itself. So when somebody does, and Chantel's going to talk about the appeals process, this is that subcommittee that would address that. nominating committee that's internal so that we can have CGC members that represent all of the CETLs across the country and internationally. Industry and international, we do have industry partners who are on the CGC, and from that, we work to build a stronger partnership with our industry as well as the international community. And Chelsea's going to talk at the end about some of the things that are coming into play around the international community and CETLs at that level. And then finally, recertification committee. Again, Chantel's going to talk about that process here in just a second. And so this is the committee that oversees that and also continually looks to improve that process as well in the certification journey. I will say, if you are interested in any of these as a CETL, reach out to us and we can talk about being nominated. The CETL ambassadors is one that you do not need to be on the CGC to participate in, and we are always looking for representation. In fact, our goal is to have representation from every 50 states on the ambassador. So if and when you receive your CETL certification, you're interested in giving back to your profession, this is a great place to start. With all of that background, I am going to turn it over to Chantel, and she's going to talk about really the part you've probably been waiting for. How do I get my CETL?
How do I get there? Well, we're going to take you on a journey. Hi, everybody. So the first step is making sure that you're eligible to sit for the CETL exam. So eligibility requirements: a bachelor's degree plus 4 years of experience in education technology. Now, there are exceptions made, so you would make an appeal to that appeals committee if you don't meet that bachelor's degree requirement. But you must actually ask for that exemption request, and you have to have at least 7 years of experience in education technology for them to consider approving that appeal. And so if you've met those eligibility requirements and you feel comfortable going forward, you would apply. So you would agree to the COSIN Code of Conduct, the terms of confidentiality, and then COSIN would process that. It takes 7 to 10 business days. So don't think you're going to ask for permission to take the test and then you're going to take it tomorrow. Everything needs to get taken a look at. And then 10% of all applications are actually randomly audited. So that means that COSIN's probably going to reach out to that 10% of random applications, and they're going to ask for just a little more information. And that helps make sure that we're meeting all of these eligibility requirements. We're verifying that the people sitting for the exam do have the experience that they say they have. So once you've applied, you might automatically pass all these requirements and you are authorized to take the test. So you would be eligible, and then you would get an email that says you're eligible to take the test, and then you have 6 months to take that test once it gets processed. You might be ineligible, but don't think that that's necessarily a hard stop, because it might be that COSIN needs some more information to change that status. Or maybe it looks like, well, you only have the bachelor's degree plus 2 years of ed tech experience. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you maybe have some experience that you didn't tell the firsthand, or maybe you just need to wait another year? And then you might be one of that lucky 10% that would go to the audit process, and then you'd either be eligible or ineligible based on the results of that audit. And if you're interested, that application is available on the COSIN website. So sit for the exam if you're eligible. So then you're ready. You've gotten your, you can take the test ticket. You've registered. What should you expect? Well, the questions are really focused on what they call the application of knowledge. So this isn't going to be like when you memorized your multiplication tables, and we're not going to be recalling facts. In fact, you should probably be prepared to read quite a bit. This is the word problem type of test. So there's probably going to be some sort of scenario and then applying knowledge. Not just going to be pulling terms out, but instead you might get a scenario and then which one of these is the next best step? Which one of these is the order of steps that you would go through to solve this problem? Or who would you consult as you are trying to solve this problem? We are lucky. There is a multiple choice for possible answers to each question, but there are 100 items total. and you only have 2 hours to complete the exam. Now, my background, I just took a test. It's for my superintendent's license. I've taken lots and lots of tests. I come from an educational background, and I'm a really good test taker too. It still took me almost the full 2 hours to take the exam. So just be prepared for that. If you're like me and you're like, oh, I'm really good at taking tests, no problem. No, it will take you the full 2 hours. The other great thing is that testing is available year round. It's a Pearson VUE test. So if you've ever had to take any other kind of test at a Pearson center, there are some security procedures in place, but they're all over the country. And international testing is also available. So that's awesome. And then something that came out of COVID that's still continuing is you can actually take this test at home or at your office, and you can do the remote testing option. They do have you install a secure browser and your camera's on, and someone is monitoring you take that exam, and you still have to verify your identity, have your driver's license. That's actually how I just took my superintendent's license, and I just took it like in my basement on my computer at home one day when my kids were at school and no one would bother me. So that can be a little less stressful if you're in that environment that you're comfortable in. And then there's the fee there for the exam. So we knew somebody would ask. It's there out in the open for you. No surprises there, so you can kind of plan and budget for that in the future. So you're registered for the exam, you have 6 months to take it. How do you prepare, or how do you prepare even before you ask for permission to take the test? Well, there are lots of essential documents available that can kind of help see if you feel comfortable with the things that are being asked on this exam. There's a CETL candidate handbook, and of course that framework of essential skills that Robin was talking about. That is the basis for the exam questions. So the framework of essential skills is broken down into different components, and they are around leadership and vision, around the instructional environment, and around that operational IT environment, the business environment. So if you review all of those materials and you feel comfortable, you may, have been doing this job for a while, and you may be pretty well prepped. You've read through all of this information, you feel pretty comfortable, you've got a good handle, but maybe you've gone through some of that information and you're like, oh man, I feel really comfortable about the instructional environment. I've been in ed tech for a long time. I feel really comfortable with the business operations and the IT environment, but this leadership and vision stuff, I need some help. Well, there are resources available. COSN does offer some possible solutions. They have a self-study or facilitated course that you can take. The self-study course, of course, is available year-round all the time. You can start and work at your own pace. But if you are interested in the facilitated course with an instructor, there is one starting on January 24th. So if that fits in your calendar and you're interested, that's an available option. COSN has an extensive knowledge center where you can find a lot of the documentation that kind of comprises that study course, that foundations course. There's also this really great self-assessment tool. And I know as I was preparing on my CETL journey, I did that self-assessment tool, and I could identify, okay, on the 10 areas of the framework of essential skills, I know that these two are my lowest. I'm going to spend my time studying there and not in those areas where they're high on the self-assessment. Coming soon, there will be a CETL practice exam as well. So fingers crossed, if you are considering this, that will be available for you to take advantage of if you choose. You probably also want to form some sort of study cohort. I find it's very helpful. I've kind of done this cohort model for a lot of master's degrees and like I said, my superintendents, and now I'm in a doctoral one. Just having partners and buddies can make studying through all of these documents and knowledge bases a lot easier. If your state is one of the 32 chapters that exist in COSN so far, you probably want to check with them. I know here in Indiana, every year we run a study cohort, and we call it the CTO to be, and we have a CETL mentor paired up with every aspiring CETL. And for the year, you're like paired up, and we give all of the CTO-to-Bs access to the self-study course. They usually form their own study groups and work through it over the course of the year. We meet in person 4 times together, the mentors and the mentees. And we've had really great results of getting people to then sit for the exam and earn their CETLs. And then they have their peers and coworkers. Another great thing about having people around you who are also CETLs is that networking and connections, and then bringing more people of your team on board. So I'm really fortunate that my district values professional learning, and they've allowed me to send, once I earned my CETL, almost every year I've sent 3 other folks through the CETL study course here in our state, and they've all earned their CETLs as well. And again, like I said, we pair them up with a mentor, and identifying that mentor is someone that you can ask questions to, someone that when you're studying something and you're like, that does not make any sense, you take the practice questions that come with the study course and say, oh, it doesn't make any sense either. Can you walk me through why that would be the best answer? But then also forming that friendship and that networking with the mentor is really huge to keep that professional learning going forward. So you've taken the exam, and immediately you know if you passed or not. What can you expect as a CETL? Well, you'll get an official certificate that hopefully you'll frame and put in your office or in your home. You'll get a lapel pin, CETL. You'll get the designation after your name, so add some letters to the end of your name. That's pretty cool. We have a listed online CETL directory, but it's important to note because you're all going to want to be in the directory, but you must opt into the directory. It's not an opt out. So some people, I guess, including me, I'm not in it. I didn't opt in. So we have to fix that. We have some COSIN and LinkedIn groups, communities for CETLs. There's a notification letter that can go to your superintendent or supervisor. COSIN will provide the template, and then you can either deliver it or they can send it as well. You could send that notification maybe to your local paper or other media outlets, and maybe they do a nice story on you. Here in Indiana, one of the really cool things that we do when we know someone has earned their CETL is we plan on attending one of their school board meetings and getting on the agenda so that we can celebrate the achievement and talk about the value of the CETL in front of the school board and the superintendent. You'll get a digital badge that you can share in your email and on all of your social channels. And then we have those exclusive events at the COSIN annual conference that I'll talk more about in just a minute. And then if you are a CETL, a CETL, then you can get more involved. And as Robin said, we have this ambassador committee. The only requirement is that you are a CETL. If you're a CETL, you can be a part of this. And it's really about networking and creating a sense of community. And we're looking for one from all 50 states. You could become an item writer. The other great thing about this exam is the questions are written by practitioners. There's someone who is a CETL wrote all of the questions that are coming up on the exam, and we're always refreshing those and keeping them current. So you could get a chance to be one of those item writers. And then maybe you want to be nominated and join the CGC and kind of, be the caretakers of this certification. Now, this is, like we said, accredited, and it's continuous learning. So it's only valid for 3 years. You are going to have to recertify. So you've got a couple of options for recertification. You can complete 60 hours of continuing education, or you can retake the exam. I would suggest doing the 60 hours and not retaking the exam just personally, but that is an option if you are needing to recertify. And if you're an involved ed tech professional, completing those 60 hours is going to be very easy. Attending webinars like this, or helping present on a webinar, or continuing education that you do, e-learning and online courses, any other industry related certifications, teaching and instruction, being a professional member of like ISTE, ASCD merger, like maybe you attend those events, other leadership or volunteer work, publishing works, all of those things would all add up really easily. And it demonstrates that you're committed to that continued competence. We know that our ed tech world changes quickly, and we want to make sure that people who've earned this certification and those letters after their name really are the best of the best, the most informed, and keep up on it. And if you work in the education world like we do, then this really falls in line with other certifications that teachers would have to keep their teaching license credential, superintendents, and if you come from the IT side, same kind of idea that you would have to recertify for like your Cisco certifications or your cybersecurity certifications, whatever, what have you.
All right, it's my turn. Thank you, Chantel. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have coming up with the CETL. One thing that you should be aware of, especially if you're interested in applying for the CETL exam, is that at the beginning of the year, things may look a little different online when you go to apply. We have been in the works for a while introducing CETL plus USA, which is actually just changing the name of the current CETL exam. And what this has allowed us to do is we have broken out the CETL with questions that apply only to US-based candidates. So laws and regulations that are only valid here in the US. We wanted to make sure that someone who is testing internationally isn't unfairly deducted, or they don't necessarily need to be aware of those laws and regulations. They may have totally separate laws and regulations. So we've created this Plus USA as a standalone exam, which is basically just if someone, say, is in another country, they want to take the CETL, but they don't necessarily need to know the US laws and regulations, they would take the CETL only portion of the exam. And eventually, our goal for COSN is to have more international portions. So just like we will have Plus USA, which is our CETL exam now, we may have Plus Canada or Plus EU, Plus Asia, different areas of the world. We're hoping that we can grow the certification and really cater to different areas of the world where there are different regulations and laws in place. But the important thing for you all to know, if you're US based, is you will apply for the CETL Plus USA, which is really just a change in the name to clarify that it has the USA laws and regulations in place. Another thing that we have coming up is the COSN annual conference. So I'm sure all of you have heard by now if you haven't. We have the upcoming conference in March of 2023 in Austin, Texas. So yay for Austin. I hear people are pretty excited about that location. It's also at the tail end of South by Southwest. So if you come in a little early, you may get to experience some of that event. It starts on March 19th, but the main part of the conference starts on the 20th through the 23rd. But we do have some CETL specific events that I wanted to point out in case you earn your CETL before March. We do have, as Robin and Chantel both mentioned, a CETL Summit, which is for CETLs only, which will be on Saturday, March 18th in the afternoon. And this is programming that is planned by the COSN Ambassador Committee or the CETL Ambassador Committee. And we usually have a keynote speaker as well as an interactive session where there's a lot of brainstorming, problem solving, discussing current issues coming up in the industry. So it's really a great opportunity to meet CETLs from all over the country, sometimes even different places in the world, to talk about issues that are really impacting you and you as a CETL. And then to follow up with that, we are also going to have a networking happy hour for CETLs only on that Saturday evening. We're hoping to find a really fun location next to the hotel that's in one of those famous bars or honky tonks in Austin to really just get a chance for all the CETLs to get together and network and just really get to know each other and have a great time. We also will have on the program, if you're coming just for, and this is open to anyone, but we will have a CETL session kind of like this, that is basically everything you need to know about the CETL exam, provides updates on the CETL, et cetera. So be looking for that in the program. And another session that we like to offer is an item writing workshop, which is another 1 hour session that will be open to anyone who wants to learn how to write better test questions or even become trained to be a CETL item writer. So look forward to both of those if you're joining us in Austin, and look for those on the schedule. And we will also, I'll be there, and Robin and Chantel, hopefully we'll all be there taking turns in the CETL booth, just in case you have any questions, you want to meet us face to face. We'll be there answering questions and just getting you any of the information that you need. So we hope to see you in Austin. So Robin and Chantel wanted me to add this slide in. Everyone is always interested in the top 5 states or where the most CETLs are. And so these numbers were current as of a couple weeks ago. But right now, the top state for CETLs is North Carolina. So they have a very strong state chapter. So if any of you are from North Carolina, make sure and get involved with your state chapter. I know they even offer some scholarships for people to take the exam and pay for even some of the prep courses for them. Number 2 is Texas. I know this was hotly contested for quite a while, but North Carolina has pulled ahead. But Texas is the number 2 state. Illinois with 46, and Indiana very close behind. So I'm sure Chantel is going to be working on that to get ahead of Illinois, but 44. And then Utah is coming in 5th with 23. We do have a really good spread of CETLs across the US, but as Chantel mentioned, we only have 32 state chapters. So if you are in a state that doesn't have a state chapter and you're interested in getting one started, we would love to work with you and help you get that going. Just need to reach out to COSN and we'll give you that information, but just let us know and we're happy to help you get a chapter started in your area. The one thing that pretty much all of these states have in common is they do have very strong state chapters, and they're very good about starting state cohorts and study groups. So I recommend definitely reaching out to your state to see if they have anything like that, if you're interested in joining a cohort or getting some study buddies together before you test.
And I know I see several Indiana folks on this webinar, so if you could get ready, let's move up that list a little bit.
Yes, and we do give at our CETL Summit every year, we do give an award to the chapter with the most CETLs, but also the chapter that, or the state that has the most increase in CETLs over the previous year. So there's always a hotly contested, those are hotly contested awards that we give out. But next, I thought we would wrap up before we start taking questions with letting Robin and Chantel talk a little bit about their journeys and how they came to be a CETL. So,
yeah. Thanks, Chelsea. So I am in the state of Texas, so we too need to do some work to regain that #1 spot. So I just want to start by saying that I am not a CTO. I do work closely with the CTO, but my focus has always been on instruction. I have been in education for 25 years, and 10 of those years I have been in instructional technology. And so when I looked at earning my CETL, I looked at a couple of things. And the first was professional learning. I said this early on that this is one of I think the biggest values and benefits in it is that you're staying current in your field, and you're staying current not only to earn the certification, but then to get recertified. And I think that that's really important when you're talking about trends, especially in technology, and what that means for you every single day in your work life. I also, because I had such a limited lens on the instructional side, earning my CETL and being, I don't want to say proficient because I'm always working to get better at the framework of essential skills, but it helped me to understand what goes into technology in a school district. So in my department, it is instructional, operational, and network or infrastructure side. And with my limited knowledge on 2 of those, working towards my CETL gave me that broader global aspect that I think I needed to be the best I could be in my job, or can be. I think it also allows me to make better informed decisions, even on the instructional side, having that lens and that framework to rely on. And then finally, honestly, probably one of the biggest parts of it was it has given me the confidence and helped guide me in having some discussions with my district about initiatives. I personally feel very strongly about COSN's Trusted Learning Environment seal, and I think having the CETL designation has given me that confidence to have those conversations about the importance of our district pursuing it. I'm not sure that that is something that I could have done without that background knowledge. So really, I did it to not necessarily further my career, but to be better at my craft. Chantel?
Yeah, so I'm also from an instructional background. I taught French for my first 6 years, and then I taught French and English. People always think that's kind of strange, like how did the French teacher become the technology director? I always tell people, you know, my job as the technology leader is to make sure that all of those bits and pieces come together to make communication happen. And that's the same thing if you're, you know, teaching a foreign language, is that got to make communication happen as people are merging their two languages. So I had just finished my administrator's license program, and I thought I'd be a principal. And it was in the middle of the school year. The superintendent came to my classroom and I was like, oh, what did I do? I'm going to get fired. What? The superintendent does not come to people's classrooms, right? And he says, so, you know, we have technology administrators too, right? Ours is leaving. And I had been doing a lot of technology training in our district, and I'd even been doing kind of a lot of break fix in our high school building. I had started a group of students who were a little student tech team who were going out and helping teachers with just questions on how to use tools and things. And he said, I think you'd be perfect for this job. And I was like, me? Okay, sure. Sign me up. If I can help make technology better for teachers and students, sign me up. But I also knew that there was a lot I didn't know. And I immediately signed myself up for our Indiana CTO2B program. And I went through that program and earned my CETL. And then I've been giving back as a mentor in that program ever since. And, you know, it helped me as I went through the study materials to have better conversations with my team as we're, you know, navigating that leadership and vision and instructional and business and operational, all of those components of education technology. It made us have really great discussions. It gave me access to a lot of resources that I needed. For example, I knew one of my first jobs was I was in a classroom and half of the Chromebooks could connect at a time. And that does not make for good teaching and learning. So I knew we needed to replace the wireless network, but I didn't know a lot about wireless networks. So as part of the study materials, I read through COSIN's Smart Educational Networks by Design. And all of a sudden, I wasn't quite an expert, but I was able to have an intelligent conversation about wireless networks, and we were able to get that replaced and make teaching and learning happen. We removed that barrier. So, and I feel really passionately about, you know, building that capacity in other people, which is why I mentor in the program, and I shared, you know, bringing my team through, because as I surround myself with other folks on my team who have that CETL background, all of a sudden we have this common vocabulary to discuss the issues that we're trying to solve for teachers and students in our community. And it gave me a connection, you know, to our state leaders, like who's been doing this work, who were in Indiana. We had a group of CETLs who were in the very first group who ever took the test and had to wait months because they hadn't set the cut scores yet. And I was able to be connected to those folks, and they've helped me grow as an educational technology leader. You know, I'm on our state COSIN chapter board, and being connected to those other CETLs who are great leaders. You know, we share the same struggles no matter the size of our district. We can commiserate with each other. We just have a network that we know we can count on. And that's really the value of the CETL for me, is that connection to others that you know are going through the same thing, because we aren't going to learn and grow, and we aren't going to solve problems for teaching and learning if we're siloed.
Great, thank you for sharing both of your journeys. I made the classic mistake of being on mute still while trying to talk, but we want to thank you for joining us today. We do have plenty of time. We have about 20 minutes left that we can take questions, but if you don't quite feel comfortable asking a question in this forum, I did put my contact information on this screen, so you'll notice that we have a certification email address, so certification@cozen.org. You can send us questions anytime. We're happy to answer. There's 3 of us that pretty much monitor that email box nonstop, so you'll get one, either me, Erin, or Andrena answering your questions. But we want to take some time to answer your questions. So please put them in the chat, and we're happy to take some time to do that. So
I was looking through them, Chelsea. Somebody asked, would meetings at a COSN committee, as a COSN committee member, count towards your recertification hours?
As a COSN committee member, meaning what kind of committee? I'm guessing it probably would, as long as you can tie any of those activities back to your to the framework of essential skills or the detailed content outline, then we usually count that as permissible. So it would probably just depend on the type of committee and what kind of work you're doing. So we may ask some questions about that, but as long as you provide that information, what you're, some of the things that you've worked on, that would most likely count. So yeah, we do allow some volunteer hours to count. And so COSN is one of those organizations we would allow you if you serve in other capacities for COSN.
I also had a question about the COSN conference this spring. Do those hours count towards, and they want to know how many hours? Well, it probably depends on how many days you attend and how many sessions, right?
Agreed. Yes. So it's hour for hour. So if you attend, 5 hours of sessions total, then you would be able to count 5 hours. It just depends on how many sessions you go to. You're right. We don't have a set number as of yet for attending the conference. That may change. We may decide that we issue a certain amount of hours for each conference, but we would ask that you attest to how many hours of actual programming that you attend. Yeah, that's a great way to earn a lot of hours, actually.
Yeah. If the CETL plus USA is on the COSN store now, should we choose that option?
Yes. So it is the same as the current CETL. There's no difference except the name is a little different. So, and you may notice in the directory that some people have CETL and some people have CETL plus USA behind their name. It's just we're in the process of going through. We have to change all those manually, so it's taking a little bit of time. So don't panic if you have already earned your CETL and you just see CETL for the directory. We're going through and changing those as quickly as we can. It's just a very manual process, so bear with us. But that is the same designation as the CETL. And really the only person who would want to choose just the CETL only is someone who is in an international location, who doesn't need or doesn't have any dealings with US laws and regulations. Because we do know that we do have our own set of laws and regulations, as I'm sure, like the EU has their own as well. So make sure and just choose the CETL plus USA.
There was a comment about Wisconsin, and I think we've talked about this a little bit about reaching out to your local chapters about the support that they offer in this journey as well, not just preparation, but some offer scholarships and reimbursements. So
yeah, I think I know North Carolina for sure is one that does offer. I'm sure there are others. I'm just not aware of them because that's not really, I'm not the one necessarily dealing with the scholarship aspect of it. But yeah, check with your state chapter. It never hurts to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we offset the cost of the exam usually here in Indiana, but I know this year we've secured a sponsor who was willing to pay for the full exam cost for all of the people in our CTO to B cohort. So we're really hoping that we can continue that partnership where they're helping support the growth of our ed tech professionals.
Also, can you speak a little about the early career K-12 CTO Academy and how that prepares someone for the CETL?
I cannot, I'm sorry. My focus is strictly certification. So, and we are siloed for a reason because of our accreditation. I have to focus strictly on certification. So I'm not as involved in the other aspects of some of the education products that we offer. And that's, like I said, for those reasons of accreditation. But I know that our education director is on this webinar. So I'm guessing she will probably put some information in the chat or even a link to that area. Or even Jill, if you feel comfortable, you can talk, but if not, that's fine too. You could respond via chat. Do either of you have experience with that? Did you attend either one of you?
I have not been a part of that, but I do know that Pete Just, who's the former chair of COSIN, developed our Indiana CTO to be. And then I know that COSIN kind of used that loosely as a model for the early career CTO academy that they have. And then he's worked with that program. So he's brought some ideas from COSIN back to ours, and they're kind of feeding each other as far as those ideas. So I would think that it would prepare you well for the CETL based on what I've heard about it. And it sounds like a wonderful opportunity as well, especially if you don't have something in your state or it's a different time frame than what your state is offering.
Thank you.
And then also, how long after you pass the CETL exam does it take to receive your welcome packet?
Your packet, I think it's about 3 to 4 weeks at the most. It's usually pretty quickly, but I think we do that. We process those every other week. So as soon as someone passes, it's usually, I think we say 4 to 6, but it's usually a little quicker than that. So, but you can start using the designation as soon as you get that notification that you passed the exam. So you can use those letters behind your name. You can update your LinkedIn, your email signature, all of those things. You also receive a digital badge that comes pretty quickly as well. So you could share that on LinkedIn. We always love it when people share their accomplishments. It is a big accomplishment. So I've earned a couple of credentials. Obviously, I am not a technology leader. My background is certification. So I have a couple of certifications of my own. And it's always great when you can share those digital badges, and it really brings, it's always nice to hear from others in the community that have earned that credential as well.
Let's see, I'm looking at the recertification activities. Where does providing professional learning for staff fall? Industry related certification, teaching.
That would, yeah, maybe even under the mentoring or instruction. We would just probably ask, you just need to provide details about what you are teaching your staff or what you're guiding your staff in doing, as long as it again ties back to the framework of essential skills or the detailed content outline, and you can show that what you're doing ties into some of those areas, and that would definitely count as well. Probably more in the leadership category, I would guess, is where that would tie in.
Well, I also always think of too, when you're leading a professional learning, you yourself are learning in the preparation of, so that could also dictate where it falls.
Yeah, and if you ever have a question about something before you submit your certification, you want to know if it would count, just shoot us an email at certification@cosin.org. We're always happy to take a look at something and tell you, yeah, that fits, or no, that's not quite right. But as long as we get a pretty good explanation and can tell exactly where that fits on the framework, which we do have a template that you can fill out. We are hoping to move all of this online, hopefully next year sometime. So it's a little bit easier of a process and a little less manual. But for now, we do ask that you tell us exactly where on those documents that you think it fits. And so it's a little easier, so you can, it's pretty nice. You're just filling out that template. I also recommend keeping that template and filling it in as you go, and don't wait till the end of your 3 years to fill it all in, as we know that could be really hard to recall everything you've done over the last 3 years, every webinar, every conference you've attended, that kind of thing. So, but we do offer that on the certification page of our website. There's a template there that you can use.
That's what I was thinking of when we were talking about this, the pacing yourself and keeping up with it all throughout the process.
Yes, I'm traditionally a procrastinator, and even for my own certifications, I'm really trying to keep track as I go, because I don't want to be that person who's scrambling to find something I did 2 years ago. So,
and like Chantel said earlier, that most of us are going way above and beyond the minimum needed. So keeping track of that can be daunting.
Yeah.
Where do you submit at the end of 3 years?
So currently it's like I mentioned, a manual process, which we're in the process of fixing with we have a new LMS. So we're working on that. But currently you fill out and submit your documents to certification@cosin.org, but you go through and pay through the website and then submit your documentation. And then you hear from us. It depends on the time of year. If we have a bunch of people recertifying at the same time, it can take a little longer, but it usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks to process those, just because the sheer volume of looking at everything manually. But like I mentioned, we're hoping to automate that process in the next year and really make it a little bit more user friendly.
All right, I feel like that's was a question. And is it the same fee to recertify as to
It's a little lower, and I don't want to quote off the top of my head and tell you incorrectly, but it is on the COSN website. It's a little lower fee, so that's nice. Unless you decide to test as your recertification option, which I can tell you very few people actually choose that route. Who wants to take a test again? I know I definitely don't. So if you do do the examination route, you would pay that current fee, whatever the fee is at that time. But there is a lower fee for recertification if you submit the 60 units.
Requirement included 4 years in education. Does that have to be 4 consecutive years?
That's a good question. I would say no. It does not have to be consecutive years, as long as you can show that you have that ed tech experience in an educational setting. And it also doesn't have to be, you don't have to be working in a school setting at the moment. We've had people who have moved to industry who have the experience and the classroom experience and the school district setting experience that want to earn the CETL. So they are currently maybe working in a different capacity in an industry for an industry partner, but want to still show that they have those abilities and they have the experience required. And so those people are also usually found eligible as well. As long as you have the experience, then you're eligible to test. The test will, as long as you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, the test should be no problem.
All right, I feel like that's the last question that came in.
Awesome. Well, like I said, if you think of anything else that you want to ask, just let us jot down that email address and just shoot us a message. We're happy to answer questions at any time. And we hope to see you all in Austin. If you do, stop by and say hi, but you will be receiving a copy of this webinar. So if you want to share it with other colleagues or you want to review some of the information again, please feel free. And we also will be posting this on the COSN website for others to view. So we really thank you for your time today. I hope you learned a lot about the CETL, and we hope to see you applying soon. Thank you all and have a great day.